Hi, I'm Stu Harrison, and welcome to The Think Tank, episode number 2. This series is about recovery, and recovery has become a very hot topic in the last couple of weeks. And I'm pleased to welcome Rhonda Barnet, who is a local manufacturer with AVIT Manufacturing and also past chair of Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters. So, first of all, a warm welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you, Stu.
Recovery is going to mean something different to a lot of different business people. If you're in the retail business, for example, it's going to mean something different than it is if you're in the manufacturing business. And I know that you've done a lot of thinking about this and have already protected your own business, but also as someone involved with a national organization, also been involved in providing some programming and some education around what recovery is going to look like. So let's just start with just your basic perception of what recovery is going to mean to the manufacturing sector.
So I guess, first of all, we have to get our heads around what business as usual is going to look like, and it's not going to look the way it did. So we keep hearing about the new normal, and so we have to all get our heads around that and what that means for our businesses. So for manufacturing, that means that we're wearing a lot more PPE than we have in the past, and that our workspaces, they're broader working spaces. We're not working so tightly together unless we have that PPE. We're looking at things like staggered breaks, staggered starts. So new normal is, it's different, and we all have to get our heads around that.
Yeah. Do you have any sense from the province, speaking to Ontario right at the moment, do you have any sense from the province of what that phase-in is going to look like? Are there going to be different sectors of manufacturing that will be phased in?
Well, I think in general, manufacturing hasn't really closed down unless they were closed down because of the lack of demand. So for instance, the auto industry essentially collapsed because there wasn't a demand for the vehicles, and it's a very integrated supply. So that's really the biggest part of the sector that has to come back online, and it has to come back online in a very sequenced way. And my company is very integrated with that sector, and we've still been in the plants installing equipment, but those plants are empty right now, and they're looking at coming online in a way that resembles almost hospitals. I mean, all of their staff will have the mandatory PPE, including the face shields, on the plant line. So
wow.
Yeah, so I think, manufacturing has been still pumping out product, but we've been doing it with fewer staff, with a lot more cost because of absenteeism and keeping our people safe and keeping fewer people in spaces. So it's just a more costly way of doing business, for sure.
Right. So kicking it up to the national level with CME, Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, what is the organization doing to help prepare people to, whether they're coming back or continuing on, what are the best practices that they've come up with?
So CME was fortunate that we were able to pull out of our toolkit an old, I think circa early 2000s, we actually had put together sort of a business disruption plan that was generic for the industry. So we brushed that off, and we gave that a pandemic lens, and that's been really helpful for our members. So it's something to really think about broadly across businesses, to have a plan. So we had this plan available to us that was generic, and we could apply it to our own institutions and say, how do we close down, or how do we operate differently safely? How do we look at, what is the threat, and how do we work around that? So, keeping our people safe, keeping our clients safe, and it sort of asked all those questions, and you were able to really quickly put together a plan. So CME put that out very quickly. And then we've had bi-weekly calls for 8 weeks with the most pressing issues, and they've been free for members to dial in. We've had 1,000 members on every call to basically get guidance from some of the biggest experts in the country, including government. We've had ministers on the line as well, to really guide manufacturers, and so that we could ask very specific questions and take the best advice to keep our doors open and keep going.
Wow. So well done, and we'll certainly provide a link to all of those resources when we post this. What do you see, just kind of looking ahead a little bit, what do you see changing? I read an article a couple of weeks ago that was called Still Made in China, and it was quite a provocative piece in The Economist. And so I'm just wondering if you get a sense that something is shifting. I mean, we're obviously going to be looking at supply chain, and especially when it comes to things like PPE, but do you sense a change that some of this will be repatriated, some of the manufacturing that we've lost over the last couple of decades?
Yeah, our sector is certainly excited about a lot of the language that's come out both provincially and federally around our sector, that, the importance of domestic supply of key things. So we've always known food is really important, but now we're seeing, how many things that are actually quite simple that we thought we could just push away somewhere else to a low-cost country. They're just so critical to our daily lives and to our health and to our lives that we need to think about repatriating some of this manufacturing. And in today's date with so much automation, we can compete on these products. We've just, we've offshored them, and we need to reshore some of these products, and right away.
And I think, I've heard anecdotally local manufacturers who, in the early days really were it was just a juggernaut and couldn't compete. But over the years, things tend to rebalance. And I think, to your point, there will be there will be an atmosphere, an appetite for local. I know, as someone who runs a chamber of commerce, I mean, our number one mandate has always been, sort of a fiercely local message. But I think we'll be even more fierce when it comes out of this to really hammer home the point of supporting your local industries. I've said this before, but I think there's a new appreciation for the value of a job and what it takes to employ someone. And I think that we can actually capitalize on that. I think there will be a strong appetite to support the people who support this community. So let's see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, and you really saw that locally here when the government put out the call to action to the manufacturers. It wasn't even about profit centers. It was about doing the right thing. And, I think that's going to continue. I mean, obviously our businesses need to exist to make money and to pay our people. But, we're Canadian, and we want to do the right thing, and we want to have the right things here to support our country. So the sector really stood up to the call to action.
Yeah, well done. Well done indeed. So thank you for the time today. Like I said, we'll post the links. And as I mentioned, this series is about touching on different sectors, and I really appreciate you taking the time today and providing some manufacturing specific information. I know it's been tremendously helpful, as will the links. So carry on. I'm sure we're all both off to another Zoom meeting. So thanks for taking the time today.
Okay, thanks, Stu.
Thanks. I'm Stu Harrison, and that's the Think Tank.